Hello ladies and gentlemen. This video has been created as a genuine defense of veganism, or how more accurately, a genuine defense of how veganism can be good as a diet. Veganism is a beautiful way to live with great intentions at heart. A way to navigate this world with compassion for other animals besides human, a way to build a community that shares the same passion and of course, can bring a huge benefit to your health and the environment. The options and benefits of veganism will be many, boasting a huge amount of ingredients and recipes that you probably would never try it even if vegan methods were not a thing. It has been a blessing in disguise for people with allergies or intolerances, since it created great tasting alternatives for lactose intolerant people or anyone that has a weak stomach in regards to red meat. The sheer creativity and flavors that have been produced by vegan chefs and food aficionados simply boggles the mind. As you can tell, in many cases a lot of love and care went to the dish presented. Veganism, when centered on whole foods, will work as an elimination diet. The current food climate is riddled with processed junk, and so a vegan diet, by process of elimination, will be greatly beneficial to those not paying close attention to what they eat. Even people that do not follow a strict vegan diet will be influenced by those who do, in regards to finding farms or shop in farmers markets that will sell animal foods from well taken care animals instead of supporting industrial agriculture. It is impressive to see the extent that this community will go to show some of the horrors of the world we live in. And it promises a more peaceful and less violent world. Vegans tend to form communities and actively search the internet for each other, which is a breath of fresh air in a world that sees us so divided, to the point that we do not even know our neighbors anymore. Many have stories of connecting with someone purely based on the fact that they were vegan and nothing else. This community will make you, as a new vegan, feel incredible. You will truly believe you are doing something amazing for the world, yourself, and those around you. An ecosystem has been formed in which people who follow veganism will help each other face the mental, physical, and other obstacles in each other's life. The benefits of veganism cannot be understated, and anyone not acknowledging that would go against millions of people's life experiences. Ultimately, there is a hell of a lot to love about this lifestyle, and the food itself is fantastic. Okay. Everybody that loves veganism should probably leave now. The video for you guys, it's over. Because all of that is how I would muster a defense for veganism. I genuinely believe it is a wonderful lifestyle and diet. Well, with some negatives left out and some major problems outright ignored. This is to make clear to whoever's listening that my angst against veganism is not blind, and I can see some positives of the lifestyle. I wanted to make a video criticizing veganism as a whole, and it is important that you guys know that I know what people love about veganism. And when people tell me how good the lifestyle is, these arguments are the ones I recognize in having some validity. Well, with some things omitted. Now I would like to say this only once. Follow the diet or like veganism as much as you want. Perhaps it brought you some benefits, and that is great. But when I'm discussing measurable functionality and practicality of veganism, your feelings aren't relevant. Heck, it may surprise you that I'm thankful for veganism and what it has taught me, but it is objectively true that veganism has a handful of issues. Are you ready, folks? Let's begin. Veganism has a myriad of issues that have been affecting many people whether they notice it or not. When it comes to health, it is painfully obvious that something is amiss. It is very hard to convince anyone that the diet that requires supplements akin to medicine is a healthy lifestyle. If, without medicine, you are putting yourself in danger, then it's a safe assumption that the diet is not healthy. Saying something that the diet is the best except for certain nutrients is like carrying a water bucket with holes and saying it's fine, because the holes are small. Let's analyze those holes and see how big they actually are. Now we all know the big bad wolf regarding B12. Vegans cannot get it unless through supplementation. It is a major flaw, but far from the only one. But let's ignore that and talk about the rest. For the next part, I will be mainly talking about nutritional concepts, known as absorption and conversion. It is important that these concepts are clear, so we can understand why other vegan deficiencies tend to show up in higher or lower predispositions in different people. These two concepts are the bane of nutritional science and vary so much from person to person that the idea of a single diet that fits everyone's needs is just ridiculous. A good starting point is, of course, protein.
First question, always. Wait, hold on. Where do you get your protein, though?
Yes. The first many vegans are quizzed on. The first that many vegans are truly tired of being asked about. Many vegan influencers and doctors will mention how plants have all the protein you need to survive, thrive, and build muscle.
For example, 1 cup of cooked lentils or a peanut butter sandwich has about as much protein as 3 ounces of beef or 3 large eggs.
However, the concept of absorption comes into play. Foods have been analyzed and qualified by scientists for their composition in fat, carbs, and the one we care about, protein. This analysis is based on what the food itself is made out of, and not what our bodies take from it. When we eat, our bodies will work fast to absorb and take as many nutrients from it as possible. Like a lock picker trying to open a treasure box before the cops show up. Our bodies have a time limit and a tool limit to open this treasure. Some foods will be completely absorbed, while others will pass through our body with minimal transformation. Foods that are easy to open will give our bodies more nutrients than foods with more locks to pick. And so dietitians and nutritional scientists have come up with a way to reference which foods have better absorption and can be used to the fullest by our bodies. Bioavailability refers to the extent to which a nutrient or substance is absorbed and utilized by our body. And the higher the score, the better our body absorbs nutrients from certain foods. Lentils have a terrible bioavailability when raw. So, if you cook it, it increases their bioavailability from 40% up to 80%. Meaning, when doing some quick maths, if you eat 1 cup of lentils that has 18 grams of protein on average, your body will use only about 11 grams. 3 large eggs also contain 18 grams of protein, but thanks to their bioavailability of 100%, you will absorb practically all of it. We could compare other plant products against other animal foods, and yet the result would always be the same. Animal foods always have better bioavailability score than plant foods. So now hopefully you will all understand absorption and bioavailability. Nutrition is not about what you ingest, it's about what you digest. It does not matter if you eat 200 grams of protein a day if your body can only absorb 10%. Plant foods' overall score is much lower than animal foods, meaning that you can't just use websites like Chronometer or myfooddata.com to plan your meals when on a vegan diet. You need to be careful to compensate for any absence of nutrition due to your body not being able to absorb 100% of what you eat. This simple concept means that for me and you, to obtain the same amount of protein from plant sources, we would have to consume more volume and more caloric foods. Please keep that in mind as we move forward.
Alright, so myth number 3, and I've heard this one enough, it has gotta be true. Vegans don't get enough protein, so it's harder to build muscle. We're not obsessing about protein all day with what we eat.
No.
We just make sure that we get a good protein source. If we're eating a salad, we eat some beans with... Another supplement that I consistently consume would be protein powders. The next thing is some plant-based protein powder. Obviously not necessary, you can get all the protein that you need from plant foods, but I do have protein powder in my smoothies most of the time. Perform protein powder, and this is... And then I've got some protein powder here. Why do you still have to have protein powder? I'm gonna be adding some protein powder. And then the protein powder, not necessary, but... And protein powder, vanilla protein powder, scoop of protein powder. Protein powder in, you know, a big bowl or something for dinner. There's some tofu or some edamame or something in there. But we're not just like constantly striving to get as much protein as we can. There's enough protein to get on a vegan diet. So anyways, myth busted.
So the solution is simple, right? Just eat more plant foods and a couple of protein shakes and you can easily thrive on a vegan diet. Well, let's talk now about conversion. We all know that the human body needs certain nutrients to survive. Our body produces some, while others we need to get from our food. These nutrients that our body cannot produce are called essential nutrients. And out of those, the most well known is definitely vitamin C. It was observed that sailors would often get scurvy during long travels, and in the 18th century, it was hypothesized and then proven that citrus fruits would help prevent such disease. The carnivore diet is looked at suspiciously by dietitians exactly because of the low vitamin C consumption. However, I will leave other diets for other videos. Without conversion, the vegan diet would not be possible, since so many nutrients are absent from such a diet. Like vitamin C, another essential nutrient is vitamin A. And perhaps it will surprise you to know that plant foods have absolutely no vitamin A in its final usable form, retinol. Here is where conversion comes into play. Plant foods don't have vitamin A. What they do have is beta-carotene. This carotenoid can be converted to vitamin A, but here lies another problem. Just like absorption, our conversion ability is never perfect. And unfortunately for some people, their conversion abilities are so low that no matter how many carrots they eat, they will still be deficient in vitamin A. Let me say that again. No matter how much you eat of a certain pronutrient, you still might be deficient due to poor conversion rates. Your body, simply put, might not be able to give you the nutrients that you need to survive or thrive. So that's it. Vegan diets only have to deal with the weaker protein absorption, no B12 and no vitamin A, right? No. God no. Let's talk about omega-3. Omega-3 is an essential nutrient. Just like we learned, that means we cannot produce it. And so, we must get it through nutrition. Omega-3 is composed by fatty acids, which the most important are ALA, DHA and EPA. Vegan foods can be very rich in ALA. However, whole plant-based foods contain no DHA or EPA. Luckily for vegans, ALA can be converted to DHA and EPA, but those of you paying attention, the key word is can. Just like vitamin A, our bodies might struggle to convert ALA into DHA and EPA. Well, don't you know it's just better to cut out the middleman and get it straight from the source, I hear you say. Just eat seaweed like nori or spirulina. But now we encounter the bioavailability issue that we talked about before, which means that for us to get the omega-3 that we need, we would have to consume far more of the plant sources than animal sources. But one more thing to take into consideration is that ALA-rich foods, such as walnuts, also give you a much larger quantities of omega-6, which in theory is good, but an excess of omega-6 and low omega-3 has been associated with cardiovascular diseases. And on top of all this, there is evidence to suggest that vegans might have a reduced ability to convert ALA to DHA and EPA compared to non-vegans. This may be due to the lower levels of certain nutrients such as B12, zinc, iron, which are important for the conversion process. So in the end, please keep it in mind that you have to eat a lot of nori per day and a lot of ALA-rich foods since the conversion to DHA and EPA is so low. But then you have to be careful not to eat too much, or your levels of omega-6 might be too high. And even if you consume everything in the correct quantities, you still might lack omega-3 due to poor absorption and conversion. This single point alone might be the single biggest culprit for many vegans' mental distress.
I have found a lot of vegans have mental problems, but
I just get more and more depressed and feel crappier and crappier and crappier.
Because I've been clinically diagnosed with mental health issues.
I was feeling really, really bad. My depression got way worse. My anxiety got way worse.
Depression and anxiety and life-ending thoughts.
Bipolar disorder, suicidal depression, anxiety disorder, sleep disorder, attention deficit disorder.
Like I said in the beginning, vegans have all the nutrients in their food. However, getting those nutrients in their correct quantities might be difficult for many. Compare this to omnivores that can eat fish twice a week, and it almost seems farcical. And please, bear in mind, we are talking about the bare minimum for us to survive with no issues. We are not talking about how much we need in order to thrive. So to make veganism work, we can just take supplements of DHA, EPA, vitamin A, B12 and a couple of protein shakes from different sources, right?
I don't like where this is going.
Let me try to make the rest in rapid fire mode. Are you ready? Here we go. Calcium deficiency leads to weak bones and osteoporosis. In theory, it seems vegan diets should have enough calcium. However, in practicality, no vegan is eating 10 portions of kale per day. It has been systematically demonstrated that the risk of bone fractures is higher in vegans than omnivores. Even your vegan documentaries, can't believe I'm even calling them that, mention that plant-based options lead to more strontium in the bones.
We know different food sources give different amounts of strontium in the bones. High strontium levels in vegetarians, low strontium levels in carnivores.
Which is more fragile than calcium and not even recommended in children. Vitamin D, or more specifically vitamin D3, is absent from the vegan diet. If you do not live somewhere where you can catch a lot of sun, this problem is even more aggravated. Vegans again were shown to have more deficiency in vitamin D. It seems to exacerbate the calcium deficiency, since there is reason to believe that vitamin D plays a role in calcium absorption. Vitamin K2, just like vitamin A, can be produced by our bodies, given the correct nutrients. However, again we have the possible conversion rate issue. Vitamin K2 deficiency seems to be uncommon, but again is something that vegans need to make sure you are converting it well. Creatine, carnitine and carnosine can only be found in animal foods. They are important for muscle function, and although our bodies can make it, once again, conversion rates come into play. Heme iron is a big one and can only be found in animal foods, and is vital for our body. Again, our body can produce it from regular iron that you get from plants, but we run for the 100th time into the problem of absorption and conversion. This is why anemia rampages through vegans. Our absorption of iron from plants and subsequent conversion into heme iron varies from person to person, and in some cases it's so bad that vegans are advised to eat at least 1.8 times more iron than omnivores. Vitamin C seems to help the absorption of iron, so if you are vegan and anemic, increasing your vitamin C consumption with your iron-rich meals seems to help immensely. Even vegan websites claim zinc may be challenging to consume and absorb in adequate amounts from plant-based foods. Selenium, choline, taurine, glycine and iodine fall under the category of either absent from vegan diets or bioavailability issues. So that's it, right? To make veganism work, we can just take a supplement of DHA, EPA, vitamin A, B12, iron, calcium, vitamin K2, creatine, carnosine, choline, carnitine, zinc, and a couple of protein shakes.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
That is all that is apparently needed to make veganism work. Except that is not what we see in real life. Supplements are unfortunately one of the biggest scams in nutrition. Not only most of them lie about what's inside of them, but also the quantities that might be inside may be negligible and useless to us. On top of everything else, even the nutrients that are indeed in the bottle and in large enough quantities for us to use, we might not be able to absorb it due to different nutrients competing with each other. The following graph shows the interactions of the essential vitamins and minerals. For example, calcium helps the absorption of B12. But if you take zinc, there is a conflict, and calcium supplementation becomes ineffective. And if that wasn't enough, this study mentions the danger of calcium supplementation.
Subjects on calcium supplements and subjects on placebo. The only problem is the lines separated in the wrong directions. Calcium supplementation increased the risk for heart attack.
So as a vegan, you will lack one or more essential nutrients from our diet. You can try to compensate with a supplement, but this one might not work, or worse, cause you to become ill. I've mentioned nutrients that veganism lack, but I also would like to mention nutrients that vegans have too much, or should I say, anti-nutrients. The conversation regarding anti-nutrients or phytonutrients or phytochemicals is one of the most discussed amongst nutritionists and dietitians. The concept is simple. Because plants cannot protect themselves from predators by hiding or running away, plants have developed chemicals to kill animals that try to eat them. That is why you cannot eat raw legumes or even certain seeds, with the side effects from nausea all the way up to death.
Wait, seriously, you can get poison from beans?
Yes. Ricin. It's an extremely effective poison. It's toxic in small doses.
Phytochemicals such as allicin in garlic and caffeine in coffee beans seem to benefit humans due to their hormesis effect, which simply means what does not kill me makes me stronger. And this is one of the best arguments for increasing plant foods in your diet, and one that I personally support. Nevertheless, the following toxins are not beneficial at all to humans. Because omnivore diets have lower amounts of vegetables, these are really not a concern, and the benefits vastly outweigh the detriments. Veganism has, however, popularized the blend and consumption of large quantities of raw vegetables by the use of juices and smoothies. This shows a strong link with the rise of kidney stones. However, if you are not a vegan, there is a slim chance that you are over-consuming these vegetables, and most dietitians would recommend an uptake in vegetables and fruit in everyone's diet. There are two things that I have intentionally left for last: cholesterol and fiber. Cholesterol is probably one of the most divisive topics amongst dietitians at the moment. I will indeed make a full video on it alone, as I think it's such an interesting topic. In order to make the topic justice, and in order to keep this video about veganism, I will try to keep it simple. Veganism is a zero cholesterol diet. In the past, this was seen as a plus, as doctors have observed that blood platelets block arteries when encountering a cholesterol plaque, and this phenomenon will cause heart attacks. Today, we see doctors starting to not recommend such zero cholesterol diets.
Love it. Is it ever possible for the numbers to be too low? My LDL is 57 and my total cholesterol is 99, and I've had regular non-vegan doctors worry about me.
Well, we've actually had the concerns, just to be upfront about it, is that your brain would go away because the brain has a lot of cholesterol. So if your cholesterol is too low, perhaps wound healing, tissue healing is going to be a problem.
It is accepted by most doctors that a diet high in cholesterol is bad for you. But as the years go by, what is considered high cholesterol is being changed. Food high in cholesterol usually is accompanied by not so healthy processed food, which has unanimously been accepted to not be as good as whole foods.
Cholesterol probably is a bit more important, but inflammation remains a critical target. Okay, so why am I keep talking about this? Well, because sugar has been known to increase both cholesterol and inflammation. And so this was the shock to most of us in 2014 when it was published that the more added sugar you have in your diet, the higher your death rate is going to be.
I'm not comfortable in taking a stance on this matter, as I feel I need to do more research before stating what I believe to be true. Our body can make cholesterol, but is it enough to thrive? Why are so many studies showing a good indication between high cholesterol and health? Is it cholesterol or processed food that is bad for us? Why did this study show the group with higher cholesterol living longer than those with lower cholesterol when the environment was under controlled? Another topic that I purposely left out is fiber. Depending on who you ask, fiber can be the best thing ever or a completely useless nutrient. For the purpose of keeping myself as unbiased as possible, I must mention that fiber is a topic in which I am very biasedly against. I recognize that fiber is directly associated with a healthier microbiome, and so it does seem to provide many benefits. But for me, it's like the devil. Growing up, I had such bloating, I could spend 1 hour in the toilet, trying to find the best position to not to die from the pain. No joke, the pain was so unbearable that I was praying for it to stop. It was when, by chance in my adulthood, I spent a month with a very low fiber diet, I realized what the problem was. This has since been confirmed to me in multiple instances, where for 2 or 3 days I don't really pay attention to what I eat and inevitably eat more fiber than usual. The pain always comes back. At first I thought it was the junk food giving me these pains, but I would even have them after family meals and weeks with no junk food. Now, I'm not saying not to eat fiber. Just like with cholesterol, I need to do more research. It will be very hard for me to distance myself from the suffering that fiber has caused me growing up. But I also know I'm not alone. Thousands of cases of IBS, gas, discomfort, pain, and constipation have been strongly associated with veganism and highly fibrous foods.
And just constantly in pain. Me eating a plant-based lifestyle, it only made my irritable bowel syndrome worse.
Especially in this last year, have constant bloat. My stomach just was protruding with gases, constantly burping, constantly farting.
Where just a lot of bloating, really bad bloating. Anything I ate would make me bloat. I eventually found out that I had SIBO. I also had...
The last couple times I've eaten beans, I've been buckled over in pain, barely able to walk. It's excruciating. It's some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
If you are experiencing bloating when going vegan, don't let it get you down.
Bloating in so much pain.
My bloating.
Massive bloating.
From bloating. Bloating.
Like my stomach was bloated.
Harold Richards with BDC News. In a trend all too familiar, global warming continues to be on the rise. In a recent alarming study, it's risen 1.5% this month alone. Some attribute this with the buff dude's decision to go vegan, with one gym onlooker saying, and I quote, "Their asses sound like a rusty chainsaw having hate sex with a machine gun," end quote. Let's find out more with our on-the-street reporter, Steele Haugen.
Vegan experts do mention that the discomfort gets easier after a while, but it seems obvious it is still a struggle, and so many ex-vegans mention IBS and bloating as one of their main reasons to quit. In the end, these are just anecdotes. On their own, they prove nothing, but they are a good indication that perhaps veganism is not for everyone, or even for the majority of people. We will talk about morality in a second, but for now, let's just address the possible arguments against what I've said so far. So, in no particular order, appeal to authority. What is your experience in the field? Dr. such and such recommended it to me, and he or she have been working in the field for at least 50 years. What do you know? Whenever someone says something like this, you can simply replace those words with, "You can't tell me what to do, you are not my dad." Simply put, it does not matter what you say, but who you are. To anyone paying attention, no negative point presented so far against this diet was done with my opinion as a base. Everything is linked to studies that try to present reality to the utmost accuracy, whether it is done by vegan experts or not. The who does not matter as much as the what or the how. The fact that I've tried to present relevant studies to all my points serves as a double-edged sword, since all studies presented probably have a counter-study that can serve the opposing point. It is now imperative that we conduct an unbiased review of the studies and see which ones have more value.
Here is your copy of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics position on vegetarian diets.
Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
We have the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. The American Dietetic Association, the largest organization of nutrition experts in the world. They released in 2016, they said it's a vegan diet is healthy for all stages of life.
Oh, the Academy of the American Academy of Dietetics. Something like that.
Conflict of interest. If the person selling you an idea tends to profit from your belief, that is a conflict. James Cameron, for example, who directed The Game Changers, bought a pea protein supplement to sell to you. And, fair point, just because you have something to gain does not automatically indicate your assertions are false, but is definitely a point to consider. Not because you have intentionally tried to manipulate the data, there is a lot of that on both sides, but because your bias skewed your results without you realizing it. This one study specifically merges vegetarians and vegans into the same category, which is quite odd, but even ignoring that, this study uses low cholesterol as point of health and proof that veganism is healthy. The study itself does not prove anything. The patients on this study also exercise and stop smoking. So which one of these three were beneficial to your heart? The exercise, the smoking, or the diet?
They then go on to state that vegetarian and vegan children do not appear to experience impairment in visual or mental development, a dubious claim to say the least. Their evidence for this claim comes from two studies, neither of which even mention vegetarian or vegan children. However, one does mention an important point, that the levels of DHA in breast milk is significantly lower in vegetarians and vegans. One trial showed that children fed a formula devoid of DHA had poorer visual and cognitive development compared to children fed formula with DHA and children who were breastfed, the mothers being omnivores. This is very important to note because the authors specifically stated that vegan diets were safe for pregnant and lactating mothers.
The study itself does not prove anything. It is just an argument from the point of authority. It is true because someone smart said so. So let's see who these smart people are. Dr. Winston Craig believes in veganism because of religion. Vicente Molina, ethical vegan and activist, far from an unbiased perspective. Dr. Susan Levin, ethical vegan and activist, part of a vegan lobby organization called Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. These people cannot be unbiased with their publications. We do not know if they alter the data to more suitably fit their agenda. Can three activists really speak for the majority of dietitians and nutritionists? If someone stands to gain from your belief, can you really trust them? Nutritional studies are quite difficult to execute and control. Simply put, you cannot close 1,000 people in a facility where you can actually control everything they eat 24 hours a day for 10 or 20 years. This leads me neatly to another big hole in vegan studies. Vegans are not really vegans. What I mean by that is that a lot of vegans have admitted to cheat on their diets and snuck in animal products from time to time. Chegans, how they call themselves. However, a lot of vegans also try to hide this fact until they get caught. So, when you do a study on veganism, how can you be sure that the people you are testing are really vegan?
Giovanna Mendoza Ares, aka Ravana, was briefly featured in another vlogger's video last week with a plate of fish in front of her.
John Venus, who's a vegan bodybuilder, had posted an Instagram story with what appears to be a carton of eggs in his refrigerator.
And it centers on New York City's new mayor, Eric Adams. It seems that Adams, who claims to be a vegan, has been seen ordering fish from a Midtown restaurant.
Well, I have sort of just become a chegan, which is a cheating vegan.
I'm also a cheating vegan. I was a cheating vegan.
I'm a chegan.
Oh, I'm kind of a cheating vegan.
Her boyfriend is a vegan and thought she was cheating on him while she was sneaking out to get McNuggets.
How long does a person have to be vegan to participate in studies? 1 day? 1 month? And even counting chegans, vegan studies still show higher deficiencies in relation to their other diets. Vegan diet studies can also be quite biased by comparing controlled whole foods diet to a non-controlled diet, which generally refers to the standard American diet that has now infected Europe as well. Basically comparing people being careful with what they eat versus people who do not care what goes in their pie hole. Can you see how this might skew the results? This leads me to another fallacy. This argument can go something like this. Most of the population is already B12 deficient, so it is better anyway to supplement. And so this is not a problem associated with veganism. We are seeing protein, B12 and other nutrient deficiencies in omnivores because our diet is a complete mess. The standard American diet is 90% carbohydrate based, making us obese at alarming rates. And even with all that extra food, we are still deficient. Veganism does not solve this issue, nor should we accept it as unchangeable and take supplements. Another fallacy holding veganism back is the no true Scotsman's fallacy, basically saying that people that failed the vegan diet did it wrong, and they are not really vegans. Saying that all these people did it wrong, and not acknowledging their struggles, is quite nefarious for some vegan activists. Which goes again towards this argument regarding how long does someone need to be vegan to be considered vegan.
You either die vegan or you live long enough to see yourself become
anti-vegan.
Another argument that I've encountered against all these arguments that I just presented to you in regards to nutrition is the personal anecdote. It goes something like, I've been vegan for 30 years and I feel better than ever. And I just want to say, you and your experience are valid. One of nutrition's most challenging aspects is how hard and how expensive it is to make controlled studies for long periods of time. When multiple people gather and experience the same thing, we as scientists have the goal to understand it. And a lot of vegans will swear by how amazing they are feeling on this diet. However, this argument can easily be refuted with anecdotes from the other point of view. And, as it stands, more people fail on veganism than the ones that succeed. Maybe you have incredible genetics. Maybe your rates of absorption and conversion are on a higher level, giving you the privilege of not needing animal foods to thrive. But these genetics are not present in the majority of the population. If you are vegan and you don't supplement, you will definitely get deficiencies in one or more nutrients. These are the words of vegan doctors.
Vegan couple whose baby died of vitamin deficiency after being fed solely on breast milk. Isn't that what you're supposed to feed babies? Yes, but if you're not getting enough vitamin B12, then your baby's not getting enough B12. Parents adopted lifestyle after watching TV program about butchered cows? Poll. Did a vegan diet kill the baby? Why, yes it did. A non-B12 fortified vegan diet killed that little girl. And she's not the first, and if vegans don't get their act together and get their B12, she will not be the last.
The last argument I was presented was a mixture of these four arguments. in regards to famous celebrities such as Nimai Delgado, Patrick Baboumian, Lewis Hamilton, and many others. These are people who overcame great odds and successfully completed extraordinary acts of strength, courage, and goodness. They are vegan heroes, if you will. Over the years, there were many vegan heroes. People who gave talks, speeches, and brought other people to the movement with promises of better health, better world, and the least amount of harm to the animals. Unfortunately, many of these vegan heroes have now deviated from the movement, and, regrettably, the moment you even stop out of the guidelines, you are pushed overboard. Joaquin Phoenix is currently one of my favorite actors. The movie Joker is, in the words of a much better writer than me,
Joker is quite simply a fantastic piece of cinema, a brilliantly written, masterfully shot, expertly acted and perfectly crafted movie that had me gripped from the opening scene until the final epic conclusion.
Joaquin seems to be vegan through and through. Since 3 years old, he says. Being vegan now is already quite tricky. Being vegan in the 1970s was probably a huge challenge.
The main dish is made from nuts, whole cereals and soya, which combined are just as high in protein as meat and considerably cheaper. The vegetables are cooked in vegetable oil, cholesterol-free, and the apple dessert is served with cream made from plants too.
Now we know what kind of foods we need, and the right mixtures of certain plants. Back then it was the Wild West. I wonder if vegans would still call him vegan, since he rides horses for entertainment and ate the Impossible Burger that is not considered vegan due to animal testing. In 2018, Lewis Hamilton went vegan and has since won a couple of titles for himself. In 2019 and 2020, he held the #1 spot, even though he missed his first Grand Prix due to COVID. Since then, he has been going down the ranks. I recognize him as an incredible athlete, but something seems to be affecting him mentally. I mean, he even tries to feed vegan food to his dogs. His mental well-being could be the result of many things, not just the diet. He was 35 years old when he started losing titles, which some would consider old for the sport, meaning that the lack of performance could also not be regarding the diet. But I would be dismissive if I did not mention it. He also seems to have relinquished his vegan title due to wearing leather, and has gotten quite into a depressive mood lately. However, once again when it comes to nutrition, he managed to keep himself on top for 2 years after the change. He won most of his titles as an omnivore, so can he really be considered a vegan athlete? This is now up for interpretation. I asked before, and I ask again, how long someone has to be vegan for to be considered vegan? Nimai Delgado is someone whom I loathe with a passion. I'm sorry that I might not be able to be objective here, but it is hard to separate emotion on this one. He is a scammer who claims that veganism built his body and that he does not use performance-enhancing drugs, aka steroids or other drugs. Let me say this, it is so obviously for those who are in the bodybuilding circle that he is not a natural that it is ridiculous. Use steroids, don't use steroids, that is fine. And more power to you if you are willing to do anything to get to the top. It is the lie that makes you a scumbag. Nimai built his body on a vegetarian diet, not a vegan one. And since he went vegan, let's see his accomplishments. In case it's not clear what you're looking at, ever since he claims that he went vegan, his qualifications became worse and worse. And 3 years after going vegan, he stopped competing entirely. Patrick Baboumian tried to show us you can be a strong man on a vegan diet. However, he can only achieve this by taking a handful of medicine per day and drinking about 6 protein shakes a day. Vegans claim he has world records, but I will let Brian Shaw, a world champion, comment on this.
It's very easy to talk. Everybody can talk, everybody can say different things and say that they're a world record holder or this, but you know, where the rubber meets the road, it is actually proving it.
Patrick is strong, but just like Nimai, built his body with animal foods, and was named strongest man in Germany whilst still eating vegetarian. So there are some people who can achieve great things being vegan. Does that mean that everyone can? Well, vegans tend to have short memory when it comes to their heroes. Names like Djokovic, Miley Cyrus, Liam Hemsworth. Mike Tyson, Samuel L. Jackson, Anne Hathaway, the Williams sister, the list goes on and on. All these and many more claimed vegan at some point, and have since went back on eating animal foods and felt much better. Vegans promised us that veganism would make our hearts healthier, our bones stronger, our blood flow better, and our health improved in all aspects. And yet, when put under stress, the vegan bodies break. For every vegan athlete, I will show you 10 others who either quit veganism or had to abandon their careers. A lot of these vegans had not just health, but also an emotional investment when it came to their animals. They have tried so many different solutions for their issues and nothing worked. They still suffered and they had to choose either themselves or others. Some humans won't even choose other people over them, let alone other animals. Veganism spreads through social media, claiming victims one after the other, but not before influencing others, like some sort of twisted virus. Huge influencers in the vegan community spouting the wonderful aspects and health benefits of veganism, until they got caught eating animal food. But once they got caught, the real truth came out. They were suffering. They were dying right before our eyes while claiming health. In their minds, it did not make any sense. They believed so hard that veganism was the perfect diet. So many vegan activists have since been caught cheating that it's quite hard to know nowadays who is actually vegan or not. This is why we should not take any examples as proof. What we can take as fact is that veganism has failed thousands of people, either destroying their mental or physical well-being. And for a diet that is so perfect for your health, why would so many people give it up? With all this, I believe I have proven that veganism is not only not a complete diet, it does not work naturally, but also for some people, it will never work at all. In theory, it seems to be a complete diet, and with the help of some artificial chemicals, some people have indeed achieved great things. But in the real world, however, its flaws are evident. All vegan health journeys start the same. People abandon a life of junk food for a whole vegan diet. They feel great at first due to cutting out processed junk that riddles our diets, and in their minds, the new vegans believe that veganism is the way. Slowly, however, your nutrient reserves start to get depleted and your new diet fails to replenish them. You get less restful sleep. You start to feel more anxiety at first. Later you start to get headaches. Food no longer satisfies you. It just fills you up. Mental distress, IBS, muscle and joint pain slowly creep in such a way that you believe it's normal. Maybe you're just getting old. Maybe this is how you always felt. You cannot believe that the diet that made you feel so good at first might be the cause of your issues now. There will be days that you will feel better and you tell yourself you're okay. But once your suffering becomes too great, you will start looking for solutions. First with the vegan influencers and vegan doctors. And when everything else fails, you will have to make the decision. You or others.